Okay. Tom Wolfer, you ready?
Ready.
Okay. Well, guys, I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Plain Township Board of Trustees for Tuesday, December 8th, 2020. If everybody will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So before us, we have our agenda as presented. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections by fellow board members or department heads at this time?
I have nothing to add or change.
Brooke?
No, I don't.
Okay. I'm just going to put our concerns of trustees, quick little Starfire, SCOG update. And then, yeah, that's it. So, any other changes? Okay. Hearing none, the agenda will stand as amended. First item we have on the agenda is new business. I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. I believe we have two gentlemen here tonight, should be here tonight to talk to the board about yard waste citations. So I will turn it over to Eric and Mr. Brian Kearns to address the board.
Okay, to get started here, for Mr. Kearns, before we call, when we do call on you, we'll need you just to state your name and address for the record. But before doing that, Eric, can you give us a backdrop on this one before we allow Mr. Kearns to present his?
Yes, I believe that this gentleman was included in the multiple entries that occurred several weekends ago. Last meeting, we had talked with one of the individuals, and this gentleman was cited on the same day, let in by the same card holder. I just hadn't made the previous meeting.
Okay. Thank you. That being said, Mr. Kearns, if you just want to introduce yourself along with your name and address, and then feel free to address the board. Hey, Eric, I think you need to unmute him if he's speaking. His icon shows is read it out.
Yeah, he has the, okay, now he's unmuted, and all the users do have the ability to unmute, but he is unmuted now.
Okay.
My name is Brian Kearns. I live at 531 Whitetail Trail, Northeast Canton, Ohio, 44704.
Thank you.
So on that day, me and my nephew, I went and helped him get some leaves from his house. We Googled where to dump them, sent us to that site. I pulled up. I had never been there before. So I thought the gate was gonna open for me. It didn't. So I got out the car. I asked him, you know, if he knew what was going on. He said no. And then as we're sitting there, cars are piling up. So it's like 6 cars behind us by that time. So then the guy behind him said, you gotta have a card. So I didn't know what they was talking about. And so he kind of let us in, and we went and dumped, and then we left.
My first question, I just want to ask, you said that you were helping a nephew or something with leaves. What is his address? Is it a Plain Township address as well?
Yeah, he lives on 29th Street off Harrisburg. He was the one, he had a Zoom meeting with you guys last week or week before.
Okay. Hey, John, it looks like you may have a question.
No, you actually asked the same question I was going to ask. So I just wanted that also to be clear that regardless of how we rule tonight, the card that, and you have purchased since that occasion, Mr. Kearns, you have purchased a yard waste card, correct?
No, I haven't. I don't live in Plain Township. My nephew does.
Oh, okay.
He has one, but I don't.
So, okay, if that's, is it because they were using your vehicle?
So I went and helped him because his truck is small. So I helped him get the leaves. So I was the first one to pull up. And like I said, I didn't know. I later since I went back and read all the signs, and now I see what's going on.
All right, so I just want to short circuit this. Essentially, in your helping of your nephew, you used your vehicle to help him, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Eric Haynes, we would have him on here because of the license plate, not necessarily knowing he had somebody from Plain Township in there. So John helped me tie this together, but the fact that the nephew who resides in the township, we have record, has purchased a yard waste card. I see Lisa shaking her head yes.
Yeah, because I think we had the hearing with him last time on Zoom.
Okay.
Yes, if I can interject, from my understanding, that the cardholder resident that allowed the two vehicles in, this being one of them, last meeting we had the other, this sounds like the two that he let in were, they had coordinated efforts, it sounds to me, but those were the two that were let in by the resident, and we've spoken to the other two.
Okay.
So the fact that the other gentleman, the nephew that he is township resident, we have record has bought a yard waste card following our prior protocol on a first case basis.
That is correct.
We would look to typically waive this with the understanding that clearly the nephew would have to maintain that card moving forward just for any future use. And for Mr. Kern's sake, it's just clarification that yard waste is restricted to Plain Township residents only. The location that is open countywide would be the Lake Township, because that's part of the joint solid waste district. Thus, it's a public versus what we essentially have as private to Plain Township residents only. John, Brooke.
Yeah, I think we're looking at the same process, but obviously what Mr. Kearns could not do, based on the fact he is not a resident, would be to use his nephew's card using his own truck to bring debris from his own property. That would be a direct violation for both of them. Does that make sense?
Correct.
Yep.
So the actual way that it worked out, if your nephew would have had a card and the debris would have come from your nephew's property using your truck, we would probably not be having these hearings. That would have been a correct way to do it. However, that you cannot use your truck with his card taking debris from your property.
I understand that now.
Okay.
So that being said, I'll make a motion that we waive the previously issued citation to Mr. Brian Kearns, and this is predicated on the fact that the record reflects he was helping his nephew, who's a township resident, who has since purchased a yard waste card. And therefore, serving as from a warning aspect, we will waive this. But if an incident would occur in the future, say Mr. Kearns attempted to dump debris from his property, then in that situation, the fine would stand. So not speculating on the future, but strictly the current. We've got a motion, the fee on the detail.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Okay, and then do we have Mr. Manfred on the call?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And then Mr. Manfred, if you could give your address for the board, for the record.
You doing?
Mr. Manfred, if you can bear with us, that was all garbled. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if it's an IT connection.
Yep, Nick Manfred, and my address, Fraser Avenue, Northwest, North Canton, Ohio.
Oh,
Perfect.
perfect. We can hear you now.
Period of it's 5534 Fraser, Northwest.
Okay, Eric, before have Mr. Manfred proceed, backdrop on this one as well.
This was an illegal entry following a card holder prior to the gate closing, issued a citation. He and I had some conversation about appearing in front of the board. He originally was going to seek counsel to see what his best options were, and then has decided to appear before you this evening. I believe he has purchased the card since the citation was issued as a resident.
John, do you want to take this one, or Brooke? Or do you want me to?
I'd like to know the background, why he was following someone in and what made him do that.
Yes, I wasn't following anybody in. I have been going there for years, coming to your guys' location, just dump leaves from my local property. And at that same time, it was like the other gentleman spoke of, there was a line of about 6, 8. And in that line, like previous years, kind of used to be able to just stay close to the other car, and that gate would go right up. And that was before they actually had the passes you were required to have. So I actually, going out of the facility, did the same thing. You're leaving the facility kind of in a hurry. If you get close enough, the gate will kind of just go right back up instead of going down and then back up. So I actually didn't know anybody in front of me. There was nobody else involved or anything like that.
So just for clarification purposes, where it was different this year than last year, and I mean, we've had multiple communications, paper, newsletters, website, and so forth. We actually privatized it at the end of last year, heading into this year. The reason being, Stark Joint Solid Waste District in the past had funded it. They weren't able to cover all the costs. So instead of eliminating it, knowing it was a service for our residents, looked at a way to privatize that, and knowing that privatizing it, it would have to be self-sustainable. That's the reason for the card. So essentially moving forward, if you were to continue to want to use that yard waste drop off, it would be, the $25 annual fee, which at the end of the day, trying to get a special pickup from your refuse hauler or a landscaper, I think that's
way more than that.
So, I don't know. Any other questions? John, it looked like maybe you had one.
No, I was just, I don't think it's relative, but just for the record, we never had gates before. It was either opened or closed because it was open.
Well,
to
they always
everybody.
they always had that arm. They had that arm there last year. Cause like I said, I would consistently do that with that arm, whether
No.
it was paid or not. It just like the arm leaving.
No.
Yeah, that arm was just installed on both the entrance and the exit when we privatized. Before, because it was open to the public, there was no
Correct.
arm. The gate was either open or closed.
Yeah, well, the last time I used it must have been they had already privatized it then. Not sure what the date was on that, but
So you're saying you snuck in twice then? If it was private?
no. The
If the gate-
last season. So last season. So I didn't sneak in, man. It was an honest mistake and everything like that. I went and purchased the card. All I dumped was a tarp or two of leaves. So I definitely wasn't trying to sneak in or do anything like that.
All right. Well, I'm gonna make a motion to, based upon prior precedent, and the resident having secured a yard waste card, and with the understanding that he would need to maintain that for future use, that we waive this one time at the board's discretion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless.
Yes.
So,
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Manfred, just so you know, that's waived. Unless you want to stay on and listen to the rest of the meeting, you're free to go.
Oh, hey guys, I appreciate you giving me the second chance and everything like that. I won't see you again at any meetings or anything like that. So I'm gonna get back to this little high school basketball game. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Haynes. Hey, yep, thanks, Mr. Haynes. Later.
Okay, well, I will move to new business number 2. And that is a resolution to encumber $105,000 for the COVID Care business grants from Fund 14A08V to be used on a reimbursement basis for the township businesses and subgrants for COVID-related expenses.
I will so move.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
New business number 3 is a resolution based by the Plain Township Board of Trustees based upon advice of legal counsel and our own research and understanding of the coronavirus relief funding to provide a subgrant to Plain local schools in the amount of, and it should read, $55,000 to offer relief for their expenditures related to the coronavirus pandemic.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion. I just want to point out, this is supplemental dollars that we're providing to the school. They've already, through the government, received $320,000, but they have expenses in excess of $500,000 that they've provided detail on. So based upon the resources we have, we are going to appropriate this amount based upon past collaborative relationship and the resources being available. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say that's why because we had encumbered everything because we did have expenditures that we could use, but receiving this kind of late request, that's why we're re-encumbering and kind of moving money around for this and a couple other business grants. So although it was all encumbered prior, we're just moving it a little to help the next couple people.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Thank you. New business number 4 is a resolution based upon advice of our legal counsel and our own research and understanding of the coronavirus relief funding to provide a subgrant to North Canton schools in the amount of $10,000 to offer relief for their expenditures related to the coronavirus pandemic as a portion of Plain Township's children attend North Canton City schools.
I will so move on new business number 4.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I would actually, what I want to add is goes along with all 3 of these. I think there's been a tremendous amount of work done to be able to provide all these. And I think for the record, it needs to be clear that everybody who had asked for some type of relief through these subgrants that presented us with the proper documentation was able to receive something. So there was nobody that asked for subgrant money or grant money that did not get something. And I think that says a lot for our, number one, that we even got it to be able to distribute it throughout our community. But I think all of the people that had input in how we provided for these grants and who they went to and what they actually stood for, I think is a testament to our commitment to trying to keep everybody in this time of crisis a little more relieved from a financial standpoint. So I appreciate all the work that everybody has done. And when we look at the school, both school districts, I think it's going to help tremendously. So again, I appreciate the work that everybody's done on it. And I know that's the way the rest of the board feels.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
Yes.
Thank you, and that's the end of new business.
Okay, so that will take us to the fiscal officer's report. Mr. Wolf?
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a request for resolution to authorize the payment of pending warrants in the amount of $362,747.89.
I'll move on fiscal officer number 1.
Moved by John, second by Brooke. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a request for resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a request for resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I think John just happened to beat on that one, so.
Every Zoom meeting, we always had to laugh. Sorry.
That's okay.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the financial report for November.
Okay, if anybody's got questions, feel free to see Tom after.
Fiscal Officer number 5 is request for resolution to authorize the following transfers.
I will so move.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 6 is a request for resolution to enter into a contract coverage agreement with the State of Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation for the calendar year 2021 and to authorize payment to the State of Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation of $127,808.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 7A is a request for resolution to request an additional amended certificate of estimated resources from the Stark County Auditor for $272,111.90 and to appropriate these funds as follows.
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 7B is a request for resolution to request an additional amended certificate of estimated resources from the Stark County Auditor for $387,562.27 and to appropriate these funds as follows.
I will move on fiscal officer number 7B as in Bravo.
I will so move.
Second,
Oh,
Brooke.
I mean second, sorry.
I know what you.
I
know
was
what you-
all excited because he said B for Bravo and I went back to military. I was like, ooh.
No, any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 8 is a request for resolution to authorize payment to members of the Plain Township Board of Zoning Appeals for the period July 1, 2020 through December 31, 2020 at the rate of $50 per meeting for a total of $1,350.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 9 is a request for resolution to authorize the following transfers of expenses to the Coronavirus Relief Fund.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 10 is a request for resolution to certify the lighting districts established in Plain Township and is shown on the attached list for the tax year 2020 to the Stark County Auditor for a period of 1 year.
Will so move.
Second.
Second.
Second, John. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 11 is a request for resolution to authorize a refund as follows for overpayment for EMS as requested by Ohio Billing.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo.
Yes.
And that concludes Fiscal Officer report.
Okay. It's going to take us to the administrator, Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is just a reminder that all of the monthly reports were emailed to you all as the department heads got them finished, so we could kind of keep a good flow to the meeting. You'd have time to review ahead of time and then just reach out to them individually while we're doing Zoom meetings with any questions.
I do appreciate getting that electronically. Just as a side note, if it's emailed, I don't need a printed copy. I found a printed copy in my mailbox once or twice. Just
Yeah.
I know it's only a couple sheets of paper, but let's save it because it goes right into the recycle bin.
I would totally agree. It's a lot
I
easier
agree.
to have that electronically where you can refer back to it. So I'm good with that as well.
Okay, and it also
Myself
gives
as well.
you time to review them and just put a little more, you have more time to look at them. So it just made it a lot more sense while we were Zooming to do that.
Thank you. It's really appreciated.
Yep. Item number 2 is a resolution to approve a blanket purchase order to be opened in the amount not to exceed $8,215 to pay Kurtz Brothers for the November 2020 hauling of yard waste.
I will move on administrator number 2.
Second, discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution to authorize purchase and payment to Allied 100 for 12 AEDs and 12 AED cases in an amount not to exceed $23,000 to be paid from Police Fund 09A08.
I will move on that.
Motion by Brooke, I'll second. Discussion.
Yeah, I know that the board had approved these previously with COVID funding. Because we did receive some later requests from the schools, from some businesses in need, I returned that, the AEDs, because we had ordered enough for each vehicle and then ordered enough that our budget would allow us, because it is a good value add to all the cruisers. So I look to next year, maybe purchasing a few more and then a few more to get us to that point. But I think after speaking with the board, the concern too really is the shape of our businesses in schools. So that's why you're seeing this resolution come from the police fund tonight.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes.
Yes.
And that ends the administrative report.
Okay. Let's see here. That will take us to the fire department. Chief?
Okay, item number 1 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize reimbursement to Ron DeFrancesco for $359 for a healthcare membership according to provision 37.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Thank you. Number 2 is a resolution to authorize reimbursement to Ben Hirschberger in the amount of $213 for healthcare membership reimbursement according to provision 37 of the collective bargaining agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Okay. Item number 3 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize the purchase and payment of one Sufton Monarch chassis from Sufton Corporation not to exceed $510,204.56 with the listed options from Fund 21A02D per attached quotes.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion, Chuck, just for the sake, this is set to mirror our last truck that we had ordered with just some slight changes to it, to essentially doing some blacking out around the wheel wells, correct? And some
Yes,
cutting
same
in there.
chassis, same setup. We just thought there were some areas where we had some corrosion, due to the water rust and that kind of stuff, and slip hazards on the tailboard and the midship that it might be worth it to put the rhino coating and that in there. Also by pre-ordering this year, we saved the increase for the 2021 price, and then also prepaying the whole order. So we saved about, and the papers in there, $20-some thousand in the whole scheme of the thing there. So it was worth it to order it here late in the year. And due to the COVID measures, they are running about 16 to 18 months for a truck. So we won't see that truck till 2022. And we'll be replacing a 98. So that'll put us at about our 25-year mark for replacement.
That is a long build out for a fire truck.
Yeah, they're having trouble like everybody with staff. On any given day, they're at maybe 60 to 70% of their workforce. So they're just behind. And then obviously parts and pieces, aluminum, and getting product too is a problem for them too. And all of them, I'm sure having the same. Our ambulances, it's coming from Lifeline, is about 4 months behind also. It's due sometime this month.
Again, it always takes good time to plan these things out, even if it's mirroring something we already have. So appreciate the attention to the detail and how we can tweak and make this thing better, not only for you guys, but really in extending, the safety and, condition of it. Okay, any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
And item number 4 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees for payment to Aladtech for online employee scheduling and workforce management system for the year of 2021 to 2022, the amount not to exceed $4,000 $527.
So moved.
Second,
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
And that concludes fire department. I'll have the paperwork for the truck up there. I'll let you know because we need some signatures on that. So
Okay.
for the contract.
Chuck, don't we have one more?
Yeah, don't we have Kyle Johnson?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't scroll down far enough. I'm sorry about that. Item number 5, stand corrected, is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to promote Kyle Johnson from part-time status to full-time status, effective December 13th, as he successfully completed his Ohio Police and Fire medical physical.
I will move on fire department number 5.
I'll second,
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Thank you. That operator error on that one. So didn't scroll down far enough.
Okay, so that'll conclude fire. We don't have anything under road, as Joe's report was already sent previously. So it's going to take us to zoning. Tom?
Thank you, sir. Item number 1 is a resolution to declare items A through C as nuisance abatement payments.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
And item number 2 is a resolution to reappoint John Rambacker to the Board of Zoning Commission for a 5-year term commencing January 1st, 2021 and expiring December 31st, 2025.
I will so move on zoning number 2.
I will second,
Discussion. I just want to note, John's probably one of our newer board members, but he's been a consistently solid performer and, rational and grounded from what I've viewed. So
Yes, very much. Item number 2 is a resolution.
actually, hey,
we did,
no further discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
yes.
All right, now item number 2.
3.
3 is a resolution to reappoint
We're having a rough night. All of us are.
Timothy Reichel to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a 5-year term commencing January 1st, 2021 and expiring December 31st, 2025.
I will move on zoning number 3.
I will second,
Discussion. Similar comments.
Yes.
Tim's actually been a long-standing member there. And, he's been consistently solid.
I would agree.
Very dependable.
No further discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
yes.
And thank God that's the end of zoning's report.
Thank you, Tom. Let's see, it's going to take us to Parks Department, Mr. Steinberg.
Thank you. The one and only agenda item is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to hire Patrick Gerber at a rate of $10 per hour with no benefits to be taken from Fund 14A01V and or Fund 14A01A in the Parks Department, effective November 29th as a soccer supervisor.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Includes Parks.
Okay. Under law director, there's nothing, but Eric, I do have one quick question because this come to my mind as I was scrolling through checking email here township wise. Previously, we had a inquiry about the Middle Branch area railroad crossing in a quiet zone. Any updates on where we're at and just researching the feasibility or?
Yeah. I mean, it's it's a dicey proposition, and I'll tell you why.
Yep.
Basically, what the courts have said is we're going to look at that on a case-by-case basis. So, in other words, that's kind of a kick the can down the road that courts like to use to say every instance is going to be fact determinant. So, when you talk about whether we have liability or not, should we go down that road, they're not telling us no. And that concerns me a great deal. They're not saying, hey, you know what, if you do that, we know the reasons you've done it, we understand it, don't worry, you don't have liability. They're saying quite the opposite. If something should occur there, they're not only going to look at what happened, they're going to look at us and why did we do it? And it opens up a huge can of worms in terms of liability, in my opinion.
So in that spirit, and I guess framing the context of, we have only received a single inquiry and a single complaint. John or Brooke, I don't know what either of you think, but from my perspective, I don't think this is something that's worth pursuing further based upon the guidance Mr. Williams is providing in relation to the frequency / volume of such type of complaint.
Yeah, I would agree. I can tell you when you look at that corridor as they're coming down through there are some pretty good marked locations, but the one that absolutely frightens me, which is probably the one that's creating the most noticeability of that train, is at Firestone. And, that's where that great big high hill is. So
With the
if you
curve.
make that approach either way, it not only do you not have very good visibility, the train doesn't have very good visibility there either. So, to me, that's almost a necessity through that corridor right there. And I have to be honest with you. I've been here a long time at meetings, and I have to say that's the first resident that I have ever heard that has brought the train horn complaint to the board. And I'm talking the time frame when I was also the fire chief. So I agree with Eric. I think we should let it alone based on safety issues.
And John, those are the exact kinds of things that a court would look at. What do you have in existence at the place where you're going to get rid of the audible tones? And when you talk about safety issues like a hill, like visibility, that's the reason they do ring the bell. Yeah. And so I would stress that it's not an ideal situation if you take that away.
Hey, Eric, in that spirit, and following up on our responsibility to close the loop with the resident, would you mind just formulating a quick response that probably encapsulates something to that point that we could close the loop with Mr. Grady?
Sure.
Okay. Thanks,
Sorry.
Okay, we have nothing under communications, so it'll take us to public speaks. Is there anybody that, I don't believe we've got anybody else attending here, so nobody to address the board. So we'll close out public speaks. First is concerns of trustees, and honestly, I just had a couple updates here. For first being update regarding the old Star Fire over off of Columbus. It was demoed this year. The land bank has received what's essentially called their Star Fire Tier 1 delineation update. What that translates to for us is they're requiring some additional studying as to how far any chemicals leached vertically and horizontally within that area. So this delineation update essentially allows the land bank to continue moving forward in their mitigation efforts, whether it's with funding they have available or in their pursuit of finding grant funds to help finish that. So that property is still just a work in process, but given the process we've or the progress we have seen there over the last year. I just wanted to provide that update. The second item that I had was SCOG. We met December 1st. No updates on countywide CAD or radio system. The crime lab update, everything's right in line and up to current. I'll say it's all current based upon the update we've been provided. There were a couple business motions that were taken to contract for our annual audit, as well as we had a approval of payment to the city of Canton for the crime lab employees. So after that payment was made, we would be approximately, I think, 90 or 95% of the expenses for the year in relation to revenue, a couple small expenses to wrap out the year. And then we also had a motion for our 2021 SCOG officers and executive committee. That slate is set to stay the same as this year. And I'm a part of the executive committee just for our purposes. Moving into 2021 as part of just the normal agenda items, there as part of our reorganizational agenda, we'll just have to send our 2021 rep name and contact information to Jen Deerlich at the county. So that was the SCOG update. And then one last comment. I want to, again, publicly recognize the effort that the staff, especially led by Lisa and Tom and, Lieutenant Carver, had in addressing a recent BZA hearing. Again, the outcome from that is what happens when facts are adhered to and decisions are made, and we don't allow homeowners associations to try to usurp and use the Board of Zoning Appeals or Zoning Commission as an extension to help them push around residents unfairly and unjustly. So I just want to recognize the efforts by Lisa, Tom, as well as Lieutenant Carver and Joe and Chuck. That's all I had. Brooke or John don't have anything. That will take us to concerns of the fiscal officer. Tom, anything?
No concerns.
Okay, so that will take us to the approval of the meeting minutes for November 24th, and I will so move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Okay. We do have a need for executive session, so I'm going to make a motion, be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 6:48 p.m. from this regular meeting as authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose of the consideration of 1F, compensation of a public employee or official.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Okay, so we're recording.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we return from executive session at 7:22 p.m.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
We do have one announcement, and I'm going to make a motion, be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to award a performance bonus to Marilyn Carrick in the amount of $2,000.00, Joyce Ichikawa in the amount of $2,000.00, Luther Russert in the amount of $2,000.00, and Lisa Campbell in the amount of $2,500.00 for the time and labor intensive work regarding the COVID CARES Act and business grants, to further resolve them to be paid out of their respective salary accounts and included in the next payroll.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes. With no other announcements, I'll make a motion that we adjourn at 7:23 p.m.
Second.
Second.
Brooks seconded.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes,
Yes.
Mr. Sabo,
Yes.
Mrs. Harless,
Yes.